Okay, cool. So last week we opened up an Eclipse project that we explored, right? We talked about kind of the overall idea behind what Eclipse is supposed to do, and Eclipse the compiler, and what its job was in terms of taking all of these individual files and compiling them into what we call a binary. And then we explored kind of what made up the essence of an Android project. Excuse me, I just had a big breakfast. The Android manifest file. We talked about some of the purposes of this manifest file and how it's necessary for the market and for the operating system on the device to learn about the app. We talked about the resources and how you have layout files and you have drawables and you have a bunch of different resources for your app. And then we went ahead and explored a little bit about this concept of subclassing, or what your custom class is going to extend. And so we started out extending the built-in Android activity class, and then we went and showed you how all of the plugins are extending the BuzzTouch activity class. We kind of poked around a little bit, and then we talked about, and we kind of ended on this concept of the Android lifecycle. So we talked a little bit about the Oncreate method and when it runs, and on start, and on resume, and on pause, on stop, and on destroy. And we went a little bit back and forth and made some comparisons between iOS and Xcode and that development environment, and Java and Android in this Eclipse development environment. And we kind of giggled a little bit because we were talking about these layout files and how in the early days of Android, the layout files, you didn't have a graphical way to add things to the screen, and it was all just done in code in XML. And so in our screen, my new class screen, let me find that file we made. Screen, my class right here. We talked about how Apple has always been very, very graphical, and they gave us this cool kind of tool to drag things around and add things to our screen, visually. And Android wanted us to do it this is still early days. Android wanted us to do it purely with the XML, and the XML allowed us to add these widgets to the screen. And so we talked a little bit about that and the difference between adding them just in code. Like if I wanted to put another text box, I could just paste this in here and give it a different ID, things like that. But then later on, Android and Eclipse and basically this Android SDK or plugin for Eclipse allowed us to do that graphically. And so let's see if I can. I see I just changed my layout here. Oh, there we go. And so graphically, we can also add things to this screen. And so we're not going to talk much about that because we do have the basis for understanding how our class has a layout file, and this is the XML file, and our Java class file, when it loads in the Oncreate, we did this thing called inflating the view or inflating the layout. So we inflated this screen my class.xml file and added it to the screen. So let me get the simulator going, and then I'm going to pause there and we're going to talk about what we're going to attack today. So let me run this, get this simulator going, because it takes a little bit of time. It's another kind of frustrating part for me, but that's just the way it goes. Simulators take forever. So I got my screen back on here and I can see you guys, and I want to talk about what Susan's been saying in kind of her lead up to this training or these lessons or this hangout or whatever you want to call it. And she has talked about bringing projects to the session so that we can explore what you're doing. And I want to do that. I want one of you to volunteer to open up your project and show the group what you've done or what you're working on or what you're struggling with, so that we can kind of explore not only what what a solution might be, but I suspect that what you have will be based on these kinds of ideas already. And I think it's comforting to see that all of us are kind of working on the same thing. So Susan, did you have a project in mind, or should we just ask somebody in the group to share what they're working on?
Well, there's three people that have submitted ahead of time. Jim King is not here, but he
Right.
has one in the Dropbox.
I
And
saw
then
that.
Joe has one in the Dropbox too. That is it actually is actually a really good one for us to look at because
Okay.
I'm familiar with the tap bug and it's an expansion on the tap bug. I don't know if you're ready
Yep.
for this, Joe, though. I have to get called on though. But we have it in your
So Joe,
Dropbox too, David. So
yeah, so we can do that two different ways, Joe. I love that idea. We'll open that up and explore it a little bit. Joe, do you want to do that on your machine, or do you want me to open it up on my machine and share and talk and explore?
I'll go ahead and load it right now, and
Perfect.
I mean you can open up on yours
Yeah.
either way, but I've got it on. Let me just pull it in right now.
Yeah, awesome. And then Susan, why don't you let Joe have the screen control so he can share his screen?
oh, you bet.
Make him the presenter.
No, that's cool. That's fun. You know,
You're like the ultimate power right now.
I love the power too, but I think
Well,
it's fun
let's
to pass
see.
it
Show
around.
my screen. Okay, let me. I guess you guys see the screen now.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
awesome. And I'm opening up that project right now too.
Okay. I've sent Susan one file and then sent her a second one. Let me. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna open up the right one. I've been out busy doing paint contracting work and haven't straightened out my files recently, but this will be it.
Paint contracting, that's awesome.
Yep,
Are you
that's.
painting houses?
Pardon me?
Painting houses?
Houses, commercial offices, anything.
Okay.
Anything that needs paint, you can count on me to put it on there.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
I say awesome because I suck at painting. I've tried a few times, and everything I paint looks horrible.
I'm going to go ahead and jump it up to 3.0, I think.
Okay, I'll do the same thing.
But that's a good question. What have you guys tried other builds besides the 2.2? And does it work better or?
It just depends on the features that you're using. There's really always going to be a trade-off between, the largest number of devices you're trying to support and what part of the SDK you want to use. So there's some newer things in 3.0 some animations and some basic things like that you couldn't do in 2.2.
Oh,
It's always a trade. It's always a trade. But anyway, I can see your screen, Joe. Can everybody else see it? That's cool.
I'm pulling up virtual device right now.
Okay, cool. So
Hey, Dave, do I need to create a 3.0?
yeah, or switch it to 2.2.
Okay, I'll do that. That's quicker.
Yeah, just
I
start that sim.
I got massive feedback, guys. Is that coming through on your end?
I can hear you well.
I know I'm here.
Okay, it's just kicking back to me.
It's because you're that crazy headset. You're the airline pilot. You got all kinds of noise.
Well, I would switch it, but I was. You know what? I'll stop my recording. Susan's recording. All right.
It's funny because that delay just start. Oh, I have it too in mind. That delay just started. It wasn't here before.
We're piping a lot of data through the interwebs. I'm surprised we can hear each other at all.
Hey, if you give me 2 seconds and switch back to Dave's screen, I got to disconnect this situation.
Okay. So Susan, give me the screen back.
David, this is Ian. Is my mic?
All yours, David.
You sound good,
echoey
Ian.
too or not?
No, you sound fine. I hear everybody fine.
Yeah, I hear a big echo on pretty much everybody but David.
Yeah, and it wasn't here. It wasn't here before either. That echo.
I'm using headphones, so it's not creating a feedback loop. But
I even hear chirping birds.
yeah, there's a hummingbird right here.
That's awesome, dude. I'm so jealous right now. You're in the sunshine. So I've got Joe's project open here while he does that. Let's explore what he's done, because I have no idea what he's after here, which is kind of cool. So he's got, I'm going to look in the manifest. I'm sorry, the configuration data, and I'm going to see what he's got going on. So he's got no tabs, so his home screen is a blank screen. And then he's got...
I can't see your screen now. Is it just me?
I don't know.
Can anyone see David's screen? Oh, there we are.
Who knows? So in the config data, he's got a blank screen. Then he's got another screen called JS Assault, which is cool. JS Exterminate, JS Bloodsport, awesome. Going for it. Okay, so here he's got, over on the left, he's got an Assault Screen class, which looks relatively long. Interesting. He's got a Bloodsport class, which looks relatively long. Cool. And if we open up these, you can see that there's a bunch of different little methods in here. And it does look like it's derived from the bug splat, which is awesome. You know, next and speed and remove button and game is running and all these typical properties of a simple little tap game. So it looks like he's done that. Maybe the same thing in each of these classes. Maybe these are going to just be different themes based on the same idea, which is cool. Awesome. So when he gets back online, he gets his machine going, we'll see what it is about this that he's either not understanding or wanting just to show off because he's done like ninja stuff that we'll all be jealous over.
Yeah, I think you know, just to remind everybody what his plan was, but his goal is to make this. Oh, the echo is my fault. There is Joe back, but his goal is to make the bug splat game with several levels, several different types of bugs. You can customize the images and probably customize the blood too, maybe.
The blood. Yeah.
Can you
That's
hear
awesome.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I got
guys, you're echoing quite a lot.
I hear someone from across the pond. That must be Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, hello. No, you're echoing quite a lot. It's echoing for some reason.
Well, this is a disaster, isn't it?
Well, do you want to just tell us what you were doing while I show the code?
Yeah, Dave, here's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
I want to create a multi-level game.
Okay.
All right. The first screen is going to be 2 or 3 multiple bugs. Each screen will add bugs. All right.
Okay, I'm just keeping some notes here. Okay.
There's a timer for each screen, and if they beat the timer, they advance to level 2.
Ah.
So the transition is going to go from once, if they beat the timer, they will automatically be moved to screen 2. They, of course, on the menu can select which game level they want to start with, but each advancement will move them to the higher level.
Okay.
My thinking was I had incorporated the quiz on that menu because I thought I was going to be able to get the code out of there
Sure.
for the time. So that's why that's there. I hadn't realized this. My concern was with creating multiple bugs with various speeds for the bugs and placing a timer on each screen.
That makes sense. So when the app first launched, would you just see a bunch of bugs flying around?
Yeah, you know, in different directions, different motions. Right now, there's a particular route that the bug takes, and although it's set on random, the screen has to close before the random seems to take another path.
Ah. Okay. That makes sense.
So I want to be able to specifically, and not just for this app, but for game boards, be able to understand the movement of a
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's stop there for a second. Just talk about this idea of movement, and let's get everybody on the same page in terms of what this bug thing's doing, so that we can kind of go from there. So I'm going to open up. And which one should I start with, Joe? Should I start with like JS Assault? Are they all the same? Assault, Bloodsport, Bugspot? Are they all the same right now? Okay.
Right now they're all in the exact same.
Okay, perfect. So let's see if I can get this thing to run on the simulator. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to the configuration data, and I'm going to take this JS Assault screen, and I'm going to move it to the top of the list so it becomes the home screen. And assuming that it runs, so it's going to load this JS Assault class as our home screen for this app. So let's try to get it on the screen first while we talk so that we can make sure that this thing actually does something. So we'll get this loading on the simulator, which has turned blue on me for some reason. I don't know why. Didn't we run into that a couple months ago, Sue? Didn't the simulator turn blue?
I've discovered why that is.
What is it?
For me, in my case, when I open two simulators, the second one turned blue. I don't. But it looks like
darned.
I got one on.
Yeah. Well, here, let me close the simulator. Then we'll open it up again. So while this simulator opens, 2.2 start. Let's talk about what this bug screen does again, which is probably a recap for most of us because I think we've all seen the video. The bug screen, come on, baby, which kind of takes a lot of elements and basic game stuff. We're going to start on the Oncreate. So this is our JS Assault class, and it's going to run Android's going to run the Oncreate method. And we're going to put on here, I'm going to change this a little bit. This class name is JS Assault. So I'm going to put right here for activity name, I'm going to put JS Assault right there so that we print that to the log so we know when it's running. We load our base view from the activity base. We update the nav bar in the background, just like always. And then what we do right here is we look for a layout file called screen.js home invasion. So let's go in here to our resources, layout, and find a file called screen.js home invasion, which is right here. And let's open this thing up, and let's see what's inside of it. And it's a blank layout file, so it doesn't have anything on it. There's nothing in it. So it's going to load the home invasion, and then it's going to open up, and then it's going to create a variable called game container, which is a relative layout. And you can see here that we declared game container right here. So it begins as null, and then we make a relative layout here, and that equals the container view. So if we look here, game container is this thing. It's just a pointer or a reference to this relative layout, which is blank. But it's important that we have a box, so to speak, so that we can add things and remove things and move things around inside of this box. So just think of game container as being a blank box that takes up the whole screen. Fill parent width, fill parent height. So we add that blank box to the screen. And then we create a new button called a start button. We set its text to start game. We set a click listener, and in normal speak, that is, we set a method to run when the button is tapped. So we're going to run a method called start game. We make a new relative layout, another little box that is 200 wide by 60 high. This actually could be button height right here. So 200 wide by 60 high, so it's a relative layout. Every time you see the word layout, just think box. So a relative layout or a linear layout or a table layout, it's just a place to put things in. In the iOS world, this would be like a UI view. Remember how we do a UI view? That's the iOS example. In Android, we use things called layouts, and most oftentimes you'll find relative layouts. There's a bunch of different types of layouts, but layouts are boxes that we can put stuff in. So we say, hey, this is a relative layout, and it's got this width and this height, and it's got some margin. And then we're going to say to the game container box, remember this box up here? Hey, game container, add a view, add your start button, and use these parameters. The parameters are the width and the height of the button. So that's going to get it all on the screen. So let's launch this and make sure that that actually happens. And while it's launching, I think you'll appreciate this idea while we wait for the simulator. Our home invasion layout, we could have used XML to put a button in here. Right? We could have put a button in XML right in the layout. But instead we used code. See how we created a new button and then we added it to the screen? It's the same approach as you'll see sometimes in, oh, you know what, I'm going to get rid of our data URL so that we don't keep asking for refreshes. No more reporting to cloud. Okay, so I just was going to show you, it's this. You can use code or you can use XML to do the layouts. It's completely up to you. We could have taken this screen, drug a button onto the screen, and then pointed to it in our code. But either way, it's going to accomplish the same thing. So here's our button that's 200 wide. And whoops, I don't want that. Here's our button that's 200 wide. I wanted to move this window over. And 60 high. Because these layout parameters, we call them params, for this box, we applied to the button. See where we added the params? So we added a view with the button and the params. Okay, so if this was in real life, I'd ask somebody to put their hand up or whatever, but who knows what's going to happen? Just speak up when we click this start game button. What's going to happen? Anybody know?
Yeah, it's going to run the start game method.
Exactly. Exactly. So Chris knows that because we set this on click listener, which is, you know, a crazy cryptic way to say, hey, when somebody clicks this button, this is what I want you to do. So we could have taken this method here and actually just written all kinds of crazy code, right? But we're saying we don't want to write a bunch of code in there. We'll just fire off another method. So let's find the start game method. I'm scrolling down. Here's the on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, on to stroke. Boom, start game. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our button start, which we have a pointer to, and we're going to make it invisible. We're going to set a variable called game is running. We're going to set that to true. And I'm going to scroll up to the top real quick and show you something. Remember, we established up at the top that we have a variable that's a Boolean, true or false. Game is running, and we started at false. So we're going to set that to true. That'll help us as programmers understand when the game is running or not. And then we're going to say if we don't have this splat button, and we'll get to that in a minute, go ahead and remove, you know, stop it moving around. And if you guys remember the game before, the bug's moving around. So then after all this is done, we're going to fire another method called moveBug. So let's start this, watch the bug move around, and while it's moving around, we're going to look at that method, moveBug. Here's the end game method. Here's the moveBug method. Okay, so from 274 to 318, everything you see in here is moving that bug around. So I'm going to give us some space here just so we can focus on this one method. So let's explore real quick and see what the heck is happening. We're going to find a button. We're going to call it B. I'm sorry, I say we're going to find. We're going to make a new button, and we're going to call it B. So B equals new button. This refers to this activity, so we're going to make a new button on this activity. We're going to set its background drawable to a file called bug.png. So we're all advanced enough to know where that is. That's going to be in our drawable folder, bug.png, right here. We could have ninja, assault rifle, whatever image we want on the button. And then just like on the start button, we're going to set an on-click listener. We're going to say, hey, when somebody clicks this button, do all of this. Okay, so in our case, when we click the button, we want to figure out where the X and where the Y are, where the button was tapped, because we're going to show the splatted blood there. So let's see if I can click this thing. I'm not fast with my mouse. It's hard. Darn thing. It's easier with my finger. It's going too fast. What's the secret?
I better slow it down.
Got it. Okay, got it. What?
Did I say just stay in one place and click, click, click?
Oh, is that the secret?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got the darn thing. So what we needed to do when we tapped the button is we needed to figure out a few things. We needed to figure out where my mouse was from the left side of the screen. So that would be, I'm just calling this splat X. You know, we could have put position X or whatever. I just labeled this variable splat X. And then I wanted to know where it was from the top. So I just did that splat Y. And I just used in some built-in Android methods, get left and get top. So you see where it says argument here? ARG is short for argument. Every time you have a click listener, you can ask Android for what's being clicked. So the view's being clicked, this big box is being clicked. Because remember, we might have missed the button, right? So we're clicking all over the view, and each time we click, we figure out where my mouse is left and where my mouse is right. Does that make sense? So
yes.
That's only if, you know, I misspoke there a little bit. Excuse me. I'm wrong. That's only if we hit the button. That's only if we hit the button. I'm completely wrong there. So this is if we hit the button, because we attached that click listener to the button itself. And that's the button that was moving around. So if I was on the button, this helps us determine where the button was when I tapped. So if I click the button, tell me where the button was, and then end game. So we're going to move past that for a second, because lots of times I was clicking it and the game wasn't ending, right? So what we're having to do here is figure out, I'm just naming some integers, just random things, and you know, my mind says, okay, we're going to create an integer called next left, another one called next top, and we're going to print those to the debugger so we can see in the debugger as the bug's jumping around. Let me open up the debugger here in the log cat. As the bug's jumping around, you see where it says left 296, top 195. Right, as it was moving around, these are the quote, the next position. We're going to move the bug from one place to the next. So how did we calculate the next position? We just said, and this is a method here, next int, that we'll get to, but we're passing in a random number, the size of the bug, and the size of the device. So we have next left and next top, and we're doing the exact same thing, creating two random numbers. And Joe's saying that maybe isn't randomizing enough for us, which is fine. We're making another box. Remember our parameters? We have next left and next top, so the position of the box. We're adding that box to the game container, the overall container here. We're running this thing called timer delay remove view. That's a little bit complex, and I'll explain it, and then we'll visit it here in a minute. That's something that's happening in the background thread, and it's what's removing the previous button. Because what we're doing every single time is adding a new button to the screen and removing the old button. That's, in essence, how we're doing this. And again, there's lots and lots of strategies. So technically speaking, we're not really moving anything. It looks like we're moving it. It looks like it's moving around, but really, from a technical perspective, let me try your trick. I'm clicking in the middle. Boy, that works good. Okay, so what we're doing is removing one and then adding another. So that little kind of tidbit right there, Joe, ought to kind of help us out. So that's what's happening as this is running. So let's focus on Joe's question and not focus on this timer delay remove view thing just for a sec. I mean, we could look at that. I'm just going to search for it. We could look at that and see what it is. You can see here, see where set visibility view gone? This is running in the background, and that's what's removing the old button. But anyway, and I see that we're not using these padding variables, so let's get rid of those. Those were probably in my notes or whatever. But you asked two things, I think, Joe. You wanted to have multiple bugs, right? And then you also wanted to have different kinds of random, I think.
Yes, I wanted the bugs to move from different positions on the start. Just something to make it a little more difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this just for fun. Let's make another button. I'll show you how we could do this.
I'm not sure if Susan was able to send you the updated. It doesn't look like you have the updated files.
I don't?
You 5 different graphics. Maybe you haven't.
It doesn't matter. We'll just use something in the project. It doesn't matter.
I think
Yeah, you got bug 4, bug 5. We have them in here. Bug 5, bug 4. They're in here.
Susan was on top of it.
I think I was.
Heck yeah. Okay, so we have a start button. And then let's add the view. Let's add the additional bugs in the start method, because that's where the bug was added. On start. No, that's not where the bug is added. Where did we add the bug here? Game container, button start. Oh, and maybe we added it for the first time when we moved it. In the move bug. Start game, move bug. So let's go back down to move bug. I'm losing track already. End game. Here we go, move bug. Yeah, so we made a button here. So let's make another button. And you could get creative. You could do like an array, like from 0 to 10, make 10 buttons with random pictures. You could do all different kinds of things. So let's call this button 2. So button 2, we've already used the variable b. We're just making a new variable. And instead of button 2 using the bug image, we'll use bug 5, which I haven't seen yet. For this button, we added this click listener. For another button, and again, there's lots of ways to do this, we'll add button 2's click listener. Okay, so for button 1, click listener for button 1, click listener for button 2. So now we have 2 buttons on the screen. When we click on either button, we're going to do the same thing and end the game. In this simple example, we could build on this here in a minute. We're saying next left and next top. We're adding the button right here, add view button. What we also want to do is calculate another set of random numbers and then make another box for the second button. So let's do this. Add button 1 to screen in random spot. Taking away some of these notes so that to shorten this up a little bit. We'll stop the debugging because we don't need to output. We could do that. We could just say left, button 1. And are the buttons the same size? Probably. Let's assume they are. So we're going to add that button, which we've called B.
I made different image sizes for those.
Okay, well, we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. And then let's just copy all this. And move button 2. So you see the red line here? It's yelling at us because we've already created a variable, a property, whatever you want to call it, a field. I'm calling it a variable, a local variable. We've already created a variable with this name, so we don't want to declare it again. We're just going to change its value. So next left is the same thing. We're going to say button 2. In other words, recalculate the random position of it. We've already used a variable called params, so we're going to call this params2. And for button 2, we're going to add it to the screen, to our game container box. And the remove view, I'm not sure if we're going to have to alter that or not, but let's just see what happens. So really all we did is just copied some code and added another. Go ahead.
I think you need to update your params. You didn't, when you set the params, you didn't change that to 2.
Got 2 here.
The 2 lines under it?
Yeah, that's got a 2 next to it.
No, above that.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good call.
Good catch, Chris.
Good catch. He's like a ninja. Speaking of bug, let's see if I can crash it then right here. Yeah, so you're right. So let's relaunch this. And how come bug 5 is the same thing? Is it the same image?
Like I put two bugs together to make them look like they were facing each other, maybe.
Okay. You got all kinds of crazy bugs. So let's make that one bigger then. Right now we have bug size, bug size. And remember where bug size comes from. Bug size comes from at the very top. We said bug size 100. So let's do integer bug size, bug 2 size. We'll just say it's 150 just for fun. Bug 2 size.
So would you say the best way to do it is create sprites for image distortion and to keep it from being distorted with image sizes?
You asked a couple of different questions there. You said sprites. To me, sprites have kind of a different meaning, but yeah, I would create different images with different sizes, yes.
Okay.
That's the way I would do it. So let me rerun this now that we've got Chris's fix in here with the bug size and get the bugs moving around. And I'm not convinced that our end game method is going to work without some changes, but let's look. So what I would probably do, it tends to get a little unwieldy with lots and lots of code. Like, for example, we made this on-click listener 2 times. So we assigned the on-click listener to this button, and we assign the on-click listener to this button. But these both do the same thing. So in a more professional implementation, you would make one click listener, and then you would assign it to both buttons. But this is just the easiest way to see what's going on, unless you wanted something different to happen when you click button 2. So this is what's happening when button 2 is clicked, and this is what's happening when button 1 is clicked. We just know that we're doing the same thing. We're ending the game. But you might say, you know, click the blue ninja to do this, and click the green ninja to do that, or maybe the blue one's moving faster, or something like that. So let's start this again and make sure our bugs are jumping around. Okay, cool. So you notice they're going to the same place, relatively, and then they start breaking out. And part of that is the random function I'll show you here in a second. It's a little bit disappointing, actually, that Java's built-in random function doesn't do a better job at actually randomizing. And let me show you what I mean. Let's try to stop this game. Hey, got it. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something? No? Okay. Oh, I see what we did. We've got bug size 2. Got a bunch of different things here. Plus 70. So these are, you know, I could randomize these things a little bit better. See how I was using bug size 1 in the position of the second bug? It's a little bit of experimenting, but I think what I would probably do is, you see where it says next int? Next int is this. This is the function that's randomizing that spot. I'm not a big fan of how well this is working. It seems like Java would do a better job using the ran function, you know, or not the ran function, but the absolute math.absolute value of this return number. There's a lot of ways to do random, is all I'm saying. So you could experiment with making a better random button or better random function. So there our bugs are moving around a little bit differently, but they're kind of, feels like they're going diagonally. You might run 2 different methods based on what bugs you're trying to move around. But that's the nuts and bolts of how we're moving it, where we're moving it from the screen and we're re-adding it to the screen. So let's take the next question that you had, which was this concept of levels. This concept of levels. And so what you would probably do is, in fact, let me ask you to revocalize that a little bit. So you're saying when I got a certain score or within a certain amount of time, how would I go to the next level?
If you accomplish killing the bug
Okay.
within a set time frame that I determine is difficult,
Got it.
then you will automatically be advanced to menu item 2 or...
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So if I look at the menu here, Okay, we don't have anything in there yet, but that makes sense. And I can add to that a little bit. The next time I start the game, I probably want to be on that same level too.
Yes.
So we probably want to remember that, right? So there's a couple different approaches here. So let's go back up to the top, and let's start fixing our code a little bit. We've got the start button, which is cool. We've got the remove splat button. That's fine. We've got our box. We've got some sizes here. We've got a speed here. Game is running. These aren't going to change. So that's not going to change. But right now we'll just stick with the basics and say we got bug size and bug size 2, and then we have speed. We could also do, like, we could look at the code and say, where is speed being used? Right? Speed's being used really the same in both places, and that's telling it how fast the bug moves. So we can move one bug slower than the other bug by introducing another speed variable. We'll move this one slower. So speed 2, you can see here we're removing this button 1 with speed. And then for button 2, why don't we do speed 2 on that one? Just to see what happens. So we'll throw that in there just for a little change of pace. But then we have to figure out a couple of other things, like what level is this person on? What level is user on? Something like that. Actually, there's a couple different questions here. Depending on, how did you imagine your logic? Were you going to write a bunch of different screens, one representing each level, or were you going to run all the levels within this screen? Like, what is the difference between the levels? The speed?
The amount of activity or bugs per screen. One screen starting with maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, got it. Yep. Okay.
Progressively.
Yeah, totally. So let's do this then. Let's just go back to our original concept, and let's say number of bugs. We'll just say 1 for now, and let's because we are doing this simple, let's equate the level with the number of bugs. So for level 1 will be 1 bug, level 2 will be 2 bugs, level 3 will be 3 bugs. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll just say number of bugs, and then we'll say integer current level. Actually, we don't even need that because number of bugs is current level. So let's make an array of bugs. So let's look at, I just want to show you this so you can see it rather than me typing it. I think sometimes it helps. Let's look at the map, and I'll show you how an array is set up. We're going to say array list, which is a little bit different than an array. It's an array list, and we will put bitmaps in here. No, let's put buttons in here. Button, and we'll say this. We'll call this bugs. So this is a Java array list is the type of object this is. This is an integer. This is a layout. This is a button. So we're making an array list, and it's going to hold buttons, and they're going to represent the bugs. Let's just start with that. So we have these 2 variables we need to work with here. So when the screen loads in the Oncreate, let's figure out what level they did last time. And in the first time they play this game, there'll be nothing, right? So let's figure out what level they did last time. So because we need to do that to fill up our array of buttons that we're going to then add to the screen. And this is just, again, one approach. So we've added our container, we've added our start button, but now let's figure out what level the user's on. So let's just do a temporary little variable here called level. And we're going to start it at -1, which to me would mean they've never played this before. Or we could start it at 0. Let's start at 0. And then we're going to say, hey, Android, let's look at this. Let's look at some saved data to see if they were on if they ended on a level, last time. And when we end our game, we'll remember that value that they ended on. So let's pretend that we're going to remember where they ended, and we're gonna save that in the preferences. So let's use the BT strings class, and let's get pref. See, I have these two methods: get pref integer, get pref string. So let's get pref integer, and it's asking for a string, which is the name of the preference. So we'll say last level, and this is just an arbitrary value. So we're gonna say level equals, hey, BuzzTouch strings class, go get this preference that we remembered named last level. Okay, and that's going to return, oh, you know what? It might return a string, not a number. So let's go look at it. I can't remember. Core, this is the BuzzTouch strings class. We're looking for get pref string. Or I'm sorry, get pref integer. Okay, no, it returns an integer. Okay, so that's good. Where were we? Here we are. So level, we're going to begin at 0. And we're going to say if level is more than 0, user has played game before. Right? Because when they end the game, we'll remember it like level 1 or something. User has never played. Okay, so let's go down to the end game method before we forget. End game. Where's end game? Start game, end game. So when the game is over, remember the level. So instead of using the BuzzTouch strings get pref integer, we'll use BuzzTouch strings set pref integer. It asks for two things: the name of the preference and the value that we want to set. So we'll say last level is what we want to call this, and then we need to give it a level. We don't know the level they're on. Well, that's not good. So we probably need a variable in our game to track current level, and we'll make that go up and down as they go through the game, and when they're all done, we'll save the current level as their last level. Where was I? End game. Okay, so instead of 3, which was just a number, we're going to say current level. So we're going to save where they were when we're done, and then when the screen loads, we're going to retrieve where they were. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, users played the game before, users never played the game before. Now that doesn't even really matter, because all we're trying to do is load up a list of bugs equal to the level they're on. So how many levels are you going to have? 10? Something like that? You're going to need 10 bugs. 20 bugs if you're going to use different art. So let's do a little loop and fill up our array of buttons. Remember our array list of buttons that we call bugs? So let's say we'll just do, integer x equals 0, x. You can see the dollar signs in there. That's the PHP coming out for me. We'll do this while x is less than bugs.size, which is Android or Java's way to count. So how many bugs there are, and then we'll increment x one time while we go through this loop. So we're going to do this from 0 to 0, from 0 to 20, depending on their last level. That might be a problem though, right? Because 0 to 0 is not going to show any bugs. So let's start level 0 or level at 1. We should start at 1 so we always have at least one bug. So add a bug to the screen. Which bug do we add? Bug 0, bug 1, bug 2, bug 3. So a slick way to do that, in my opinion, would be, let's go back to your project, your bug splat project. In our resources, in our drawable, we have this bug. So let me copy this bug.
I want to.
I get this.
See the
I'm getting the
bugs.
rainbow spinny wheel here. You don't see the bugs?
No, I want to
Yeah.
see what the bug pictures. Well,
Oh yeah, I got a spinny wheel though. Where all of a sudden we're dead in the water. All I was gonna do was name the bugs bug under, bug 0, bug 1, bug 2, bug 3. Just gonna name them with the numbers in them. Can we use numbers in Android? I always forget.
No,
Anybody?
you can use numbers.
for images.
Yeah, you
Anybody?
can
Can we use numbers in Android names?
You can use numbers and images.
Okay.
Right? I have to look at a project. Sure.
Why am I getting the globe here? Look at the globe.
I can't see the globe.
You can't see my spinny globe?
Mm-mm.
The pizza.
I got the pizza, dude. I'm stuck. Wonder what's running and taking all my power. Finder, maybe?
Okay,
That's
are
a
you looking
mystery.
is it stored in Dropbox?
Okay, here we go.
There it is.
Here we go. Okay, so the bugs, resources, drawable. Okay, so here's bug 1, here's bug 5, here's bug 4, here's bug 3, here's bug 2. I'm just going to copy bug, and I'm going to copy. Let's do bug. I'm going to rename these. Bug 1. Bug 2. Bug 3. So we've got to figure out which ones to show, Bug 4. Bug 5. Now they all look the same right now. Bug 6. So what we could do is open all these up in an image editor. Let's do that really fast. It'll just take me a minute. And we'll put a number on their back so we know which one's which. It's noon already. I'm trying to go fast.
David,
this will help
maybe we
us.
should do a little check there. How's this going for everyone? Is this the right speed for how we're going through the material and
Sounds like it.
everyone's quiet? But this echo thing is kind of annoying this time. So
Yeah, so I'm echoing, huh?
no, you're not echoing, but everyone else is.
Oh, okay. Speaking of annoying, I can't find my little palette is covered up by the little GoToMeeting thing. Okay, so I'm going to put a 6 on this bug. Six. We'll save this as bug 6. And this is resources, drawable, bug 6, bug 5, bug 4. So these bugs are all the same size, Joe. You wouldn't necessarily need to do this, but depending on your logic, Bug 3.
It's just stuff I put together for example purposes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This stuff is fun to explore too, and keep in mind, we're kind of creating this together, right? I mean, I don't know how to do this stuff. I mean, I know the logic, but I don't know. There's never a right or wrong way. There's just different ways. And some ways are gonna perform better than others. You're gonna come up with an approach that you think is good, and next thing you know, you're gonna be like, this is lame. You just gotta work through it. And there's all kinds of different things to consider when you're talking about this stuff. Okay, so we got a bunch of bugs now. So let me get rid of that. Let me refresh our resources list. So we're sure that we have our bugs in our project. They were in drawable. Refresh. Eclipse doesn't automatically rebuild the list. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just for fun, because we're going to run out of time here, let's say that our level is going to be 3. So add a bug to the screen. Well, we need to figure out what name the bug is. Right? We got to build the bug name. So let's create a string called bug name or image name, and it's going to be bug, and then we're going to add or concatenate, they call that, x, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're then going to concatenate png. So as we go through this loop, the image name is going to be bug 0. Oh, we don't have a bug 0. Need a bug 0. So I'm just going to start this at 1 so that we don't break the thing, because I didn't make a bug 0 and I started x at 0. But anyway, so x equals 1 to the size of the bugs. So image name equals bug plus the number 1 plus png. So then what we're going to do is name. Oh, you know what? Let's change this. Instead of holding a list of buttons, let's just hold a list of strings, naming the images. So instead of an array list of buttons, we're going to do an array list of strings. And I'll show you the logic here. So image name we're going to add to our array. So bugs add image name. So bugs is a list now of names of images. And it's going to be a different length for each player. We're cheating a little bit and starting this on level 3, but in your real life you'd probably start on level 1 or something like that. But you'll experiment with this and it'll work. So bugs is now just a length, an array of image names. But we're gonna think about that image name list, that list of names, when we move the bug around in our move bug method. Because remember last time we created these buttons manually. And we added the click listener. And then we moved the button around. Let's get rid of all of this. Let's get rid of all of this. All the way down to here. And let's just do this for every button in our list. So we're going to say loop through image names and add a button for each one. Okay? So we're going to start at 1 again. We're going to say bugs.size. Oh, that last one was wrong. Bugs.size starts at 0. We don't have any bugs, so we wouldn't have any images. We want to go from 1 to the level. 1 to the level when we fill it up. Does that make sense? 1 to 3, 1 to 5, 1 to 8. So we want to add a bug for each level that we're on.
Okay.
I had my logic was super broken there. And then down here we want to say for every bug in the list. So instead of the bug name's the same, we're not going to add to the array. The array's already filled up. We're going to create a new button. So we can call the button B. It's a new button. We're going to set the background image to the name of our image. That makes sense? So we create all the buttons. Now we need to move that button or position that button. Just going to add some notes here because that curly brace is going to be pretty far down the screen here in a minute and I won't know where it went. So we're going to add a click listener to our button. So button set click listener, that's the same. Then we need to position our button. So add the button to the screen at a random location. So remember our button's called B. It's not button 1 anymore, it's button X because we're in a loop. So instead of button 1, it's button X. And the log will print to the log, its location. Button X. We're assuming all the bugs are the same size, which we know they are in this example. Set those params to our bug button variable B, and then add it to the view. And then none of this stuff is even necessary. Because we're not doing it manually, we're doing it dynamically. We're creating the number of bugs based on the level that the person was on last time. And in the loop, we're just looping through the number of bugs and adding a button over and over and over again with a different image name and a different location. So we could probably do a little bit better job at randomizing that 70 there. But anyway, you're gonna have, like I said, you're gonna have to experiment a little bit with the location and how you want to actually. You can randomize so many different things, it's crazy. And then on your click listener, you might want to figure out which button was tapped, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how complicated your logic's going to be, but just for levels, this should work fine for us. So we have a start game, and we have an error. So we crash somewhere, not surprising. So let's see where we crashed. You probably couldn't find a picture I was referencing or something. Let's see. Null pointer exception, assault, view, perform click. Let's see what we broke. Let's see what we broke here. So our click listener, move bug, start game. Perform click on button. Okay, so what did we break? So we've got.
How did you know that it was a perform click? What made you pick that one out as the?
How did you know that it was a perform click? What made you pick that?
I'm just reading the log here. Android's showing me a big ugly error, and I don't necessarily know that. I just know that it didn't crash until I clicked the button, right?
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking at the error. It's fatal. Something obvious is in my code that we're missing. We're trying to reference something that's null. I'm just reading this line by line.
Yeah, but I saw you go through the 4 lines and you picked out the.
Yeah, so here's the class name, assault. Whoops, wait a minute. Assault.moveBug ran, and then assault.startGame ran, and then assault.onClick. That's when I click the start game button. That's when it crashed. So I know that when I click the start game button, here I'll show you. We ran the move bug method, and that's what killed it. So something in here killed our code. Right? If I commented all that out and I reran this thing, we already know that move bug is triggered from the start button. Move bug. Make sense?
It looked like maybe down in the log area that under the bug assault there was a dollar sign in there. Is that something right there above that one line? 118, John 118?
It's gone now. I don't know why the output console puts that dollar sign there. There's probably a reason, but I'm not sure what it is. That's a good question. $3. I'm not sure what that is. So here, when we click this, I'm going to clear the console. When we click this, it's not going to crash. I'll show you why. I think I know why. Yeah, see, start game called. And then like this here, let's go through our loop. And I oftentimes debug stuff like this, just kind of step by step to see what's going on. I think what has ended up happening is I think our remove view method is broken because we've got a bunch of bugs to remove instead of just one. This timer remove view method that we're triggering, I think that method, we'll go down and look at it in a minute. We need to remove all the bugs every time, not just one bug. So let's see if we get our bugs on the screen. And then I've commented this out so it won't keep adding bugs. It should just add them the first time. Let's see what happens. Nope. Okay, so our our error is somewhere in here. And if you looked at this, let's output the bug name to make sure that we have an image with that name. It might be trying to find an image that doesn't exist because of the way coded this. I don't see anything obvious. Let's look here. Let's print this to the console. That's all we'll do is print that to the console, and it won't crash because I'm going to comment all this out just to keep it from dying. It's just a process of elimination sometimes. There's lots of ways to set debuggers and breakpoints and lots of strategies, and we could probably set a lesson around how to do that. I like using the console because it just helps me understand more clearly what's going on. That's just my approach, and I've gotten pretty fast at it. But like Susan said, you've got to get comfortable with what all this stuff says. And given time, you will get comfortable. Yeah, so it's already crashing, and all we're doing is printing the name. All we did is it's crashing right on this loop. Do we have... What's going on here? Bugs.size? Does bugs.size have a...
Maybe
Oh, you know what we probably
use the
did?
1 instead of the 0 as a starting point. Would that throw it off?
No, I think what we did here, and I'll show you the trick. Let's go back to our map, and I'll show you what I'm making an assumption here. You'll laugh. I don't think... Yep, we didn't allocate any memory for our array. In other words, but the array bugs, we have to tell it it equals a new array of strings. See that? We declared the field is what Java calls them. We declared the field, the instance variable right here, but we never allocated or created the new object. That's what new is. So we just tried to fill it up. We just tried to add bugs to an array that didn't exist. That makes sense, Sue?
It does.
Yeah, so how would I know that? I don't know. I've just done this a while. So null pointer exception is a clue. It's like, what's null? Something's null. So Android's telling me that our array list is null. And I didn't learn that until I tried to do something really, really simple, which is loop through the list and print the objects. I mean, I didn't just automatically know where to look. I just had to kind of sleuth that out. Does that make sense? So move bug never even fired because in our start game, move bug. So bug size must be 0. Because look, here's our start game thing, and it didn't print anything right here. We expected it to print this, the name of each bug image in our list, but bugs.size must be 0, which is crazy. So let's go back up and see where we filled our array. So level equals get pref integer last level. Let's just set level to 3. Get pref integer might return 0 if it can't find it. Yep, so it returns -1 if the value doesn't exist. So level equaled -1. So we should put a little check statement here. If level is less than 0, or 3 in this case, because we want to call it 3, level equals 3. The things we learn, the things we learn. If level is less than 3, then level equals 3. We're just trying to force it to be 3. I could have very easily just said level equals 3, but I wanted to show you how to get it from the saved preferences. In this method, as we just learned, even I can't remember all this stuff, get pref integer returns -1 if that preference does not exist. So you see how we have bug1.png down here in our start method. Of course, our button disappeared. Can I start over? No, I gotta reload it. Bugs. Let's do like 5. And let's get them on the screen so we can see them, and then we'll stop there so Joe can experiment. Okay, so we should see the bug name, bug image name print down here in the console when I hit the start button. And we're going to use our eyeballs and look at them. Okay, I'm going to hit start, and over here it's going to print the names of the bugs in our list. So bug 1, bug 2, bug 3. Let's make sure those exist in our project, which they do. Bug 1, bug 2, bug 3. And now let's make buttons out of them. Add the button to the screen. Let's see if we get lucky with no other errors. I'm going to stop the remove thing because that's going to kill us until we figure out this remove. The timer remove, timer delay remove view. I don't think we're going to get away with that same method with multiple buttons, but we'll try it here in just a sec. Let us see, let us see. So much faster to do this on the device too, by the way. Okay, so there's our 3 buttons. So that's cool. Let's see if we can get lucky here. And then we'll reset the timer and do this over and over again. See what the heck happens to our buttons. We should be removing, adding 3 and removing 3, adding 3 and removing 3 over and over and over and over again. And I think the 2 issues with this logic, this is super simple logic in 1 hour. I think the logic is we want to come up with a better way to randomize the location of each button, and I think we want to come up with a better way to you know, remove them or whatever. I mean, see how it just feels to me like they're on this diagonal path. So that's like the X and Y, we're never getting down here in the bottom corner, and we're never getting up here in the top corner. You see what I mean, Sue? So our random function is a little bit weird, but they should all be clickable. Hey, there we go. So that already, and look, and our restart's not removing all the splats. Maybe you want that, I don't know. So that would be level 3. So right, I'm gonna go back to the video so I can see you guys and stop sharing my screen for a second. And we can kind of unpack what we talked about, because there's just so many things that you can creative, right? The creativity part, it just kind of never ends. So all we did is we created a list of buttons, I'm sorry, a list of names of buttons, just strings, 1, 2, 3. We put those bugs in our project in advance. So if you looked at like Angry Birds, you know, there's probably 400 little birds with all the different little changes between each bird. And depending on where you are in the game, they just use different graphics. But they're in the project when you download the project. Or think of another game. Think of Fruit Ninja, right? He's moving the sword up and down. Well, the images are, it feels like it's moving really, really fast, but that's kind of the effect, right? But if the ninja sword is in whatever position, and so is the fruit, well, then they throw that image away, and then they show you 2 images that look like it's cutting apart.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the, you're not slicing the image apart, you're animating 2 images, one's this half and one's this half. And so it's just a matter of really getting creative with what's happening on the screen, and then, of course, keeping track of things. So you could set a little variable called current level, and you would do something like, you know, counter. Every time he tapped a bug, 1, 2, 3. Hey, if it gets to 4, transition to another screen, remember the value, save it to the preferences, so when the app launches next time, you start there, right? There's these little tricks that aren't too horribly complicated, but can really make for some pretty neat creativity. And I mean, we just made a cool little bug thing that's pretty slick. I mean, it's generic because it's a bug, but imagine a beautiful piece of background art with like a city and like certain rules about where instead of being a bug, it's like a guy on a skateboard and he's moving around, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, wait a minute, this is like a real video game. And now you have rules in your little math that says, okay, he can't be in the upper left-hand corner, he can't be in the bottom right-hand corner, because we'll start exploring these ideas that we call collisions and colliding. Hey, he can't skate through a building, so let's not let him go there. He can't skate through, you know, a car, or if he does intersect with this car, which has its own math, Well, then we're going to get rid of the skateboarder image and we're going to show the dead guy on the street image. And then we're going to play the sound effect that goes, ugh! And it's going to feel like life. It's very strange.
Oh,
But
yeah,
really,
Joe,
all it is just...
You need to have
What was that,
sound.
Sue?
Joe needs to add sound to that plugin.
Absolutely. You get sound, you get background music, you get, I mean, I hate to say it, but in today's world with kind of the young at heart, you get, hip, right? Cute guys, cute girls, cool cars, lowriders. Next thing, rock band in the background. Next thing you know, you got a game. And it's pretty alarming how don't let me overestimate how lots of these are incredibly sophisticated. I'm not suggesting that they're not. I'm not suggesting that, have you heard of what's the Jungle Run, Temple Run? Everybody thinks Temple Run is this amazing game, and really, it's not. It's the illusion of speed with the jungle going by. The guy's running. He's not moving. He's just standing still with 12 images, one like this, one like this, one like this, one like this. Right? You're animating those images. He's moving. The little monkeys are trying to get you. Kids eat that stuff up, and it's fun. And so I don't play games, never really have, but I'm fascinated with, like, I look at my phone and I think to myself, what did they do to create this effect? And I really like that. And it's funny, when I was about 9 years old, no, maybe I was 12. What year did Star Wars come out?
Oh,
78?
78.
78?
Yeah.
So I was 10. I'll just never forget, like, my mom was worried about me being scared with, like, Chewbacca and all the dudes in the white helmets or whatever, but I couldn't believe what was on the screen. It was just so amazing to me that some guy in probably Hollywood or whatever built these things and was making us feel like we were in space. And I just focused on, like, how did they do that? I didn't care really what the story was. I mean, Princess Leia, I was too young to think she was cute, the scary monsters. I didn't care. I was just amazed by that. And so when I look at these apps, it's kind of the same thing. Like, how did they, Instagram's a note-taking app, but it's beautiful. And how did they get those animations to make me feel like I'm taking important notes? My notes aren't any more important than they were a year ago, but now because they're in, or I said Instagram, but I meant Evernote. Now that they're more in Evernote, my notes feel like a valuable thing to me now because of how pretty it is and how beautiful it is, not because it's magic notes. They're just notes. And so I really do get fascinated with every single app that I see. And in your case, Joe, you're coming up with a creative idea, right? What if we had more bugs? What if we had a level? That makes perfect sense. What if the images changed? You could have a pretty sophisticated app changing the background image, changing the bug images, all within the same plugin. You don't need to load new activities.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Or inquire. You were programmatically moving it from one page of coding as opposed to a menu operation, right?
Yeah, I would use the word transition to a new activity. I wouldn't make each level a new class file and a new screen. I would just have one class file called, my game, whatever, and I would have an array of buttons. I would have a score. I would have a level, current score, current level, timer. And then I would have a couple different methods. One might be, reset game. And that reset game method would empty the array of images and reload it with a new list of images. Mm-hmm. The, transition to new screen method might show a little graphic that says taking you to next level, right? And it would show you it would feel like you're going to a next level, but it would all be within the same class in my mind. And then when you're done, you've got a score, and so you have, think of when you get in your car, all of the different things that you have to do over and over again. Start the car, stop the car, shift the car, turn the blinker on, turn the blinker off. Your game will have like 20 or 30 methods. Start over, do over, pause, reset images, play sound, change background, show, pretty girl smiling, whatever they are. Each one of those little methods, and you're just firing them all at the right time so that you can achieve the effect. And so some of them are going to be based on the score the guy has. Some of them are going to be based on the amount of time that's elapsed. Some of them are going to be based on what they tapped on. So each method, you're just going to build on it, one thing at a time. We just made a method that just adds 3 things to the screen. But you'll have a long list of methods. And then you don't have to have a long list. You can get pretty entertaining with just a short list. It doesn't have to be that sophisticated. I mean, what if these were race cars, and I liked race cars, and one was driving across the top and one was driving across the bottom, and the game was somehow I was trying to keep them from crashing or something. You know, I don't know. But 2 pictures moving, an intersection where they can't hit. If they do, you show fire or whatever. And so, you know, that's the kind of, you got to get through that basic stuff, and hopefully you'll get addicted to it, right? I want you to get addicted to it because you will be amazed at what you can make. And that's, if you do this because you enjoy it, then you'll make amazing stuff. If you do it because you're just trying to sell apps, and I think you'll be a little bit tainted. Doesn't mean you can't. I mean, you could do that. You could do just volume games. That's fine. But I feel like the people who really enjoy it and kind of are,
I love this.
it's fascinating, isn't it? It's crazy how this works.
Oh,
So-
did you guys see Mad Rod? I don't think he posted on the forum, but he made a game app for kids. He just got it approved yesterday in the App Store. I saw it on Facebook. It just uses this tic-tac-toe game, and then it's really cute though. He has very good images.
It's awesome.
Like taking that, we have such a limitation on what we have right now on the plugin market, but that are for games. But he took what little there was and added really good artwork to it, and he just did it. He really maximized what it can do. Now, if we can do more things, think of what our apps can do with that.
Yeah, the concept, and this is, Sue and I have talked about this a lot, and of course, you know, people who know me well have talked about this a lot. You know, there aren't ever going to be enough plugins to satisfy all this creativity. We already know that, but the concept is we want to get enough variety and enough stuff in the store so that as a developer you have a choice. Can I leverage what somebody else has already made because it does a lot of the things that I'm thinking, and change it and tweak it and adjust it to be mine? Will that be faster than doing it myself? That's kind of the idea. And so, because we don't want everyone to have the same app, right? We want that. We all know the wonderful feeling of making something on your own. That's the kind of the goal. And so the plugins are supposed to be, you know, enlightening, really. Oh, that's how that works. I see. Now I can do this. And so that's kind of the idea there. And so, you know, we'll get there, right? What do we have, 55 now? I think there's probably 15 or 20 that are waiting. I don't know, 10. Susan's got a ton of them there that's just waiting on me. But yeah, so over time, but like when we go to St. Louis, Joe, are you going to go to St. Louis?
I will if I can. I'm trying to get
Okay. I don't know where you are.
Florida.
Yeah, you're a long ways. Okay, so it's a few bucks. But if you got to St. Louis, these are the kinds of things that we want to talk about, right? These ideas that you really can make neat, fun, interesting, entertaining, educational, useful things without a lot of previous skill, but you do need to have some enthusiasm, and you do need to kind of recognize. I think the hardest part of programming is people think it's out of their reach. I don't think they realize they can do it. I think that they believe, like, how does this, like me at Star Wars, like, how did this happen? But now, of course, you know, special effects and all that, it makes sense to me how it happened because I've been exposed to it. And so a lot of our audience and a lot of our friends and colleagues now in these meetings and online on the forum, you know, we're all just discovering this kind of together, and I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool. But it's 12:30 now. Unless somebody else got something we want to bring up, I got to get going here in a few minutes. Susan, do you have anything else?
No, but do you have any homework for us for 2 weeks from now?
Do we want to come back with the bug one, or do we want to go to the map one?
We have the map.
I think here, let's do this.
Jim would really like some help on his too. Jim did.
I do have some homework. Okay. When we come back in 2 weeks, why don't we all bring a couple screenshots of apps that we think are amazing?
Okay, all right.
You know, just take a picture of it with your camera or save it on your phone or whatever. Doesn't have to be iOS. It can be Android too, because we can bring this to Android discussion. Let's put those up on the screen, and I want to explain to you. I think you'll be amazed at how unsophisticated they are. When we talk about, oh, that's just a list of buttons, or oh, that's just an array of sound effects, or that's just